Hello and welcome to the Route School Bus Fleet's content series. I'm Wes Platt, contributing editor. Thank you for watching from wherever you are in the world of yellow buses. The Route is brought to you by Thomas Built Buses, a leader in pupil transportation. And for this episode, I am happy to welcome Kendra Eads, Thomas Built's Vice President of Engineering and Technology. Kendra, welcome to the Route.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
First, can you tell folks about your role at Thomas Built Buses? What's your typical day like?
Sure. I lead product development, specifically with the engineering group here. And I would say a typical day is I start out by getting a download from my team on what the critical work going on is. Sometimes that's helping out with problems that we're having at the plant. If something doesn't fit together right, I mean, we always design things to be perfect, but reality is a different thing. So sometimes that's the charge of the day. We have a lot of new development projects going on, and so keeping track of where we're at with the design and testing of those is something that I also always start my day out with. And then I move into kind of more business mode. I'm a part of the leadership team here, and so kind of wear a dual hat, looking after more business concerns and trying to help my coworkers lead the business across all of those functions. So I spend about half of my day on keeping track of my own projects, and then working on making sure the business is going in the right direction for our customers.
Understood. Keeping the plates spinning. All right.
That's right.
So great. Thank you. Now, Thomas Built Buses has a long-standing reputation for safety and innovation. What are some of the recent advancements in your buses that exemplify the company's commitment to maintaining that reputation?
So we have invested pretty heavily in a couple of new development projects recently that I would love to tell you about. One of them is around our electrical architecture. We have just integrated a new electrical architecture into our C2 product, and redoes the cockpit area for the driver, gives them a much more automotive feel, gets a lot of the controls closer to them, so much better ergonomics. Just generally feels a lot more like a car. Menu system, so they can easily find any information they need. Just a lot of advancements in that area. It also prepares us for a lot of safety upgrades that are coming in the near future. We're partnering with our parent company, DTNA, and so the latest technologies that they're developing for trucks will also be something that we can take advantage of and integrate as soon as those are available. So that's pretty exciting that we can take advantage of that. So that's one of them. Another big project is transitioning our transit product, our Type D product, from the traditional design to an upgraded design that takes into account all of the safety features that we have on our C2 platform. So not only will we have those features, but we're also going to start building that at our state-of-the-art plant that has a lot of automation to ensure consistency and the highest levels of quality. So that's been a big project and a big investment, a lot of automation investment going into that plant to make sure that we're building both the C2 and this new Type D better than we ever have before. And then a little closer to home, something that's near and dear to my heart, we're now doing more virtual testing. And we talk about a lot of, things in the digital world that's really popular in the news right now. And that is common to engineering as well. And so we do a lot of structural and dynamic analysis, and we've done more of that in the last year than we have probably ever in the history of Thomas Built. And we're able to use that to look at every aspect of design and look at it across a whole variety of different applications and school bus uses, so that we can really optimize our designs to work well no matter what your route looks like. And that's pretty exciting to me. It's pretty fun to get to virtually test out a bus before you ever build one.
Yeah, and as a computer nerd, I can tell you that fascinates me too. So, yeah, very cool. Um, now, I guess when it comes to the structural integrity of school buses, I'm interested in finding out what kind of innovations Thomas Built is implementing to enhance durability and safety during accidents.
So, you know, our designs are all built around this idea of maintaining the compartment around the passengers. And that's nothing new. That's something we've always had in our designs, but it's something that we focus on as we're moving the Type D across. Focus on as we're changing and enhancing our C2 designs. And just to give an example of that, the way that the skirts are added onto our bus, we actually add those on below that compartment, so they're below the floor of the bus. And in the event of a side impact, which is one of the most likely impacts, so a passenger car hitting the side of a bus, in that event, all of the energy from that wreck would go into those side skirts, and they almost sacrificially snap off or get bent during a crash, and that energy doesn't travel up and impact that compartment. So your passengers stay safe. If it's a minor impact, you actually end up with no damage to that compartment, and they can be easily removed. No cutting required. They just unscrew, and you can get in there and replace all of them, and you can feel secure that your bus is going to be almost as good as new, if not as good as new. And that's just a feature, and it's, I think, representative of how we try to address our buses. We also, every time we look at different joints, every time we look at meeting joint specs from the government, we try to choose the best fasteners for the job. There's different ways to put joints together. We have a lot of joints that are welded, and we're always working on that new welding technologies, whether that be robot welders or different types of welders. We want to make sure that we have the most consistent, strong welds that we possibly can. That's a piece of it. Another piece of it is using structural adhesives. You can actually get a better bond, a stronger bond using structural adhesives than you can by using mechanical fasteners. And so they're more expensive, but we've decided that that's the right investment to make sure we have the strongest structural bus. We do still have traditional mechanical fasteners, rivets and screws that we use. There's places where that's the right thing. But we're always looking for upgrades in that technology, always looking for where we can go next to make sure that we have the best joint and the easiest joint to get right in production. I guess the last thing I'd say about this is we feel really confident in our design. We have a great base design to the bus that's really strong. We are constantly adding features to that and adjusting and tweaking it to make sure it stays strong. But we also follow up with a lot of testing. We know that our buses by design meet all of the federal standards and are very, very safe. We want to make sure that we never allow a quality slip to happen. So we're constantly measuring key characteristics of our components to make sure they're made the right way. We also check chemical compositions and all of that. And so we have a lot of overcheck, and we regularly test joint strength just to make sure what we're building is as good as it was designed in the first place.
Now, buses aren't much use without the drivers behind the wheel, right? So
That's right.
how does Thomas Built empower and support drivers through design and technology? What are some of the specific features that are making the driving experience safer and more intuitive?
So I've talked a little bit about what we've already done with our new electronic technology, getting things closer to the driver. Everything is about making sure that they get to focus on their most important job, which is keeping our kids safe. So trying to not distract them. We don't want too many warning bells going off with we don't want to distract them with a lot of things that don't matter. So we keep a focus on having really good visibility out of the vehicle, having things where they don't have to look too far from the windscreen to actually touch buttons and control the bus. And we try and make it comfortable for them. So we have really nice seating options. We have driver specific heating and air conditioning. I think those are important. If you have a driver who's cold during their bus route, they might be distracted and might not be able to do as good of a job. So a little bit of a mix of technology and just keeping the drivers comfortable. We have some other things on our buses that I think maybe aren't as intuitive. We offer acoustic ceilings, less noise. Noisy children can obviously distract the driver or could potentially, and so those acoustic ceilings really cut down on that noise. And then, just one more feature that I think exemplifies what we try to do for our drivers. We have new IntelliPark park brakes. And with a very light touch of a button, you can turn your parking brake on and off. And, I'm used to kind of old school parking brakes where you've, really got a lot of effort. And if you only have to do that once a day, it's not that big of a deal. But in the case of a school bus driver, they're doing that repeatedly throughout the day. And so this IntelliPark system, while it has its own safety features that it's meant for, it really improves the ergonomics of the driver and cuts down on that repetitive motion that they might have and really the energy that it takes to set and release that brake every time they stop.
All right, last question. When a school district is speccing a new bus, what are the key safety features that they should prioritize, and how does Thomas Built help them make the most informed choices?
Well, I love this question. I've got a lot to say on this topic. I'll try and keep it short. You can tell I'm pretty passionate about how well built and designed our buses are. We feel like when we get children onto the bus, they're going to be safe. I mean, I think studies actually show that the safest place you could be is in a school bus, just about, if you're traveling down the road. And so where we're really trying to get people to focus is the technologies that keep the children safe as they're getting on and off of the bus. We have a safety zone detection system that I think is fantastic. It detects objects around the bus. It has path lighting. So certainly, especially when it's dark out, you can see in front of the bus, there's lights on the crossview mirrors, on the bottom of the crossview mirrors that light up that path. Inside the bus, the driver can very quickly see a representation of the bus and then notifications of where they may need to look to see if there's an obstruction or if there's a pedestrian around the bus that they didn't already notice in the mirrors. Those systems come with that visual warning. They also come with a haptic. So you can either get, in the seat or in the steering wheel, you can get kind of a vibration sensation to notify the driver that maybe they missed something when they were doing their checks and they can check again. We also obviously offer camera systems. Those rely a little bit more on the driver being able to pick out where someone may be standing around the vehicle. I think that's a great system, but kind of going back to our premise of keeping the driver least distracted, I like just giving them that aid of, hey, check this area again. They're already checking their mirrors. That's standard practice. That's what we want them to do. We think that the mirrors really provide them what they need. This just gives them an extra way to know where they need to check again. So that's probably the biggest piece of it. We also provide auto reversing doors. There have been a few incidents where backpacks have gotten caught as children are getting outside the door. I just think that doesn't need to happen. So that's a feature that I would like to see prioritized. So really both of those. So anything that helps kids get on and off of the bus safely is where I want people to go. The final thing I would mention is we have new backlit stop signs and destination signs, and they're really remarkable. Really nice. Really add to the visibility of the bus, certainly from a distance, and they stand out. And I think because they're new and different, they really do draw other drivers' attention to the bus and what it looks like. And I think that's a technology that's really going to take off. They're particularly nice. So what we do to help these customers is obviously we have a lot of documentation online. We have training online around all of these. And then we have, even more importantly, a really good dealer network that is ready to demonstrate all of these things in person and let them see for themselves how they work and what they can offer for their drivers.
Outstanding. Well, Kendra, thanks for all this great information. It's been great having you on. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. You can tell I enjoy talking about safety of our product.
And I like hearing about it. So it's great that we're able to do this. School Bus Fleet also appreciates the sponsorship of the route by Thomas Built Buses, a leader in pupil transportation. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel and connect with us on social media. Drive safely and see you next time on the route.